Hi and welcome back to our page. I've got a question for you. How often do you check your staff DBS? Every year? Every 3 years? And what do you do about staff who are not receiving the update service? I hear these questions constantly, and what worries me is the amount of misinformation out there. Some providers think there's a mandatory 3-year renewal cycle, others think once a DBS is done, it's done forever. Both are wrong, and if you get this wrong, you're potentially putting the people you support at risk and exposing your service to regulatory action. Let me give you the facts. Let me start by killing the biggest myth in the care sector recruitment. There's no CQC requirements to renew DBS checks every 3 years. And I'm going to say that again because it's very, very important. There's no CQC regulatory requirement to repeat DBS checks on a fixed timetable. The 3-year thing comes from NHS practice. Some NHS trusts have internal policies requiring DBS renewal every 3 years, but that's an organisation policy, not a legal or regulatory requirement. CQC has never mandated a specific renewal cycle for DBS checks. So what does CQC require? Under Regulation 19, fit and proper persons employed is that you have effective systems to ensure your staff remain suitable to work with vulnerable people on an ongoing basis. That's the key phrase, ongoing suitability. It's not about a certificate date, it's about whether you can demonstrate at any point that your staff are fit and proper to be working in their role. So, if there's no fixed cycle, how do you manage DBS compliance properly? That's what we need to talk about. The DBS service is the simplest and most effective way to manage ongoing DBS compliance. And honestly, if your staff are not using it, you're making your life way harder than it needs to be. Here's how it works. When a staff member receives their enhanced DBS certificate, they can register for the DBS update service within 30 days of the certificate being issued. The annual cost is £13 paid by the individual. Although some employers choose to cover it, once registered, their DBS status is kept up to date continuously. You can check it at any time through an online portal, and it will tell you whether any new information has come to light since the certificate was issued. This means you don't need to apply for a brand new DBS check every single year. You simply check the update service and it tells you whether the person's status has changed. If it hasn't, the original certificate is still current. And if it has, you know you need to take action. My strong recommendation is that you make DBS update service registration a requirement for all staff. Put it in your recruitment policy and make it clear at interview, and include it in the employment contract. Some providers take the approach that they will pay for the first DBS check, but if the staff member doesn't sign up for the update service, they will have to pay for the next check themselves. That tends to get people registered pretty quickly. And if you have staff on the update service, check it at least annually. Most providers align this with the annual appraisal, which makes sense because you're already reviewing the person's overall suitability anyway, and performance at that point as well. But you can check more frequently if you wish to do so, and you should check immediately if any concerns arise. Now, what about staff who are not on the update service? This is where it gets very, very nuanced. If a staff member isn't on the update service, their DBS certificate is a snapshot of a one point in time. It tells you what was known about the person on the date of the check, but it doesn't update. So, how do you maintain ongoing assurance of their suitability? The answer is through a combination of measures. First, annual suitability declarations. At each appraisal or at a dedicated point in the year, ask the staff member to sign a declaration confirming that there have been no changes to their criminal record, no police investigations, no cautions, no charges, and no safeguarding concerns since their last DBS check. This is a simple form that the staff member signs and you keep it on file. Second, robust supervision and performance monitoring. Your supervision process should include discussions about conduct, competence, and any concerns. If a staff member's behaviour changes, if there are complaints, and if there are safeguarding concerns, these should all be picked up through your supervision and management processes. Third, a strong whistleblowing culture. Your staff should feel confident to raise concerns about colleagues without fear of retaliation. If someone knows that a colleague has been involved in something that affects their suitability, you need them to tell you. Fourth, a risk-based approach. Rather than automatically repeating DBS checks on a fixed cycle, assess whether there's a reason to do a new check. Has there been a concern? Has the person had gaps in employment? And have they disclosed something that warrants further investigation? This is a proportionate, risk-based approach and is exactly what CQC expects to see. Here's a practical tip. If you do take the risk-based approach, document your rationale. Write a brief risk assessment that says, we've not repeated this person's DBS because they are subject to annual suitability declarations, regular supervision, and our whistleblowing policy, and no concerns have been identified. That documented rationale is what an inspector wants to see. You need a central DBS tracker. This doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to be accurate and up to date. The DBS tracker should include for each staff member their name, the date their DBS certificate was issued, the certificate number, the level of the check, which workforce it was checked against, whether they're on the update service, the date you last checked the update service, the outcome of that check, and who completed the check as well. And if you're using a spreadsheet, set up conditional formatting so that it flags staff whose checks are overdue for review. Colour code it so you can see at a glance who's on the update service and who's not. Have a column for notes where you can record any concerns, actions taken, or risk assessment outcomes. Link your DBS tracker to your supervision and appraisal schedule. When a staff member has their annual appraisal, part of that process should be checking the DBS update service if they're registered, or completing the annual suitability declaration if they haven't. That way, it becomes part of your routine management cycle rather than a separate task that gets forgotten. Make sure to keep the tracker secure. DBS information is sensitive personal data and must be handled in accordance with the DBS Code of Practice and GDPR. Only authorised personnel should have access to it, and old DBS certificates should not be retained longer than necessary. When CQC inspects your recruitment and staff suitability processes, here's what they're actually looking for. They want to see that you've completed an enhanced DBS check with the appropriate barred list before the person started working unsupervised. That's the baseline. They also want to see that you have a system for maintaining ongoing assurance of suitability. Whether that person is through the update service, annual declarations, or a combination of approaches, they want to see that you've thought about it and implemented it consistently. They also want to see that your approach is documented in policy and that your staff understand it as well. If an inspector asks about one of your team leaders and how they monitor staff suitability, that person should be able to explain the process clearly. They also want to see that if concerns have arisen, you've acted on them promptly. And if a DBS check flagged something, or if a suitability declaration raised a concern, what did you do about it? And critically, they want to see that your approach is proportionate and risk-based, not driven by arbitrary timescales. Inspectors tend to focus less on how often you check and more on whether your approach to suitability is thorough, consistent, and well evidenced. So, to wrap this up, there's no 3-year DBS renewal rule from CQC. What there is a requirement under Regulation 19 to ensure ongoing suitability of your staff. The best way to do this is get all your staff on the update service and check it annually. For staff not on the service, use annual suitability declarations, robust supervision, and a documented risk-based approach. Keep a central DBS tracker and link it to your supervision cycle and make sure it's accurate and up to date. That's what CQC wants to see. If you need help setting up your DBS tracking system, if you want a template for your suitability declarations, or if you want a full review of your recruitment processes against Regulation 19, that's something we can absolutely do here at CareSync Experts. Drop us a message and the link is in the description. Thank you for watching and make sure to like, comment, subscribe and share this video if you find it helpful. We'll catch you on the next one.